Well, hello. How are you, everybody? This is Monica Shimonik here, and I'm with Moms Unshackled, and I have a tremendous announcement for you all. So it's February 1st, and Connecticut parents have recently learned that we are going to have um, a really big public hearing on Tuesday, the 5th, February 5th in Hartford. And that hearing starts as early as 8:30 in the morning, but the actual hearing starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. But I encourage all of you to take the day off work. Do everything humanly possible to be at this hearing. So this hearing is so important because we haven't had a public hearing in 5 years of this magnitude. And this is hugely important for us. And how we got this public hearing, I don't know, because we have been trying and trying and trying to get the attention of legislators for years in reforming the family courts in Connecticut. And we had a really big loss in November when most of our most of our public officials were voted out. We went from like something like 35 supporters to like 6 overnight, the night of election day. So we weren't expecting this at all. And when our biggest supporter was removed from the Judiciary Committee, we thought we had to start all over again from scratch. And then lo and behold, this public hearing got scheduled for Tuesday. So I encourage all of you to be there. Now, one concern which I think is a very legitimate concern, because I have the same concern, is that 2 of the experts will be experts in parental alienation. And so my knee-jerk reaction to learning that was, I hope that the experts in parental alienation aren't the experts like, Dr. Conley, Dr. Horowitz. There are some other really harmful people that label themselves professionals who have falsely diagnosed parental alienation and accused a protective parent of alienating a child against the abusive parent. And what they do is, so this is what happens. Let me just start over. So family courts are incentivized to always favor the abuser no matter what, okay? So if there's domestic violence in the household or sexual abuse or any sort of abuse in the household with mom, dad, and the child, and I am not putting gender on any of this. This could be a mother abuser or a father abuser. There's no women, men, none of that. I don't do that. I'm extremely gender neutral with everything. So if there's an abuser and a victim and a child, and there's any sort of abuse taking place, the family court will side with the abuser. And then what happens is a professional comes in and they say that, when I say professional, I mean like a hired gun professional that a judge appoints, or the abuser's lawyer will select. Okay, that's what I mean by professional. And they'll charge $10,000 or $20,000, and they'll write a report. And what they'll do is they'll say that the protective parent is alienating the child from the abuser. They do that. They do this all the time. I have read these reports. I've read the judge's decisions as a result of these reports. And what happens is these so-called professionals will say that the protective parent is alienating the child from the abuser. And so they bring this to the judge, and then the judge, in their infinite wisdom, they take the child away from the protective parent and they put the child with the abuser, and they put the protective parent like on supervised visits, or give that parent extremely limited access to the child. And I have seen this. I have seen this in person. I have seen this in writing. I have heard this. This happens all over, everywhere. Okay, like every court in every state, this happens. So when I found out that there was going to be parental alienation experts, I was like, I need to know who these people are, because I need to make sure that they're not people like Dr. Conley and Dr. Horowitz, and there's so many others. I just can't think of any other ones right now. There's at least 10 other experts like this in Connecticut who call themselves experts, but they're really not. What they are just criminals, because they publish lies and they make recommendations that put children in danger. So fortunately, I was fortunate to find out that these are not those kinds of people that are going to be on the panel, and I'm very grateful for that. So so all that being said, with like parental alienation, blah, 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 I do believe parental alienation is real. Parental alienation syndrome. And the reason I know it's real is because I experienced it as a child. I was a little kid and I grew up alienated from my own father. And our oldest son, Peter and I have a 17-year-old son who's completely alienated from us. He lives with his mother full time, and we haven't seen him in almost 4 years. He is alienated. So parental alienation is real. Now, the problem with the family courts is that they purposely misapply parental alienation, and they only pretend that it's real when it exists in a domestic violence situation or sexual abuse. That's when they decide that parental alienation is real. They misapply it on purpose. They misdiagnose it. They misapply it in order to take a child away from the protective parent. But then you have situations where parental alienation is 100% ignored. One of the most famous cases in Connecticut is the case of Jerry Mastrangelo, M-A-S-T. It's spelt the way it sounds, Mastrangelo, M-A-S-T, R-A-N-G-E-L-O. I think that's how you spell it. It's so easy to write down, but not easy to say. Jerry Mastrangelo is completely alienated from his teenagers. He has been a tremendous advocate in Connecticut. And in fact, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now if it weren't for Jerry Mastrangelo. Like he has been tremendous in this movement. In fact, when I wrote my book, I actually referenced him in the back of my book as like the reason I wrote the book. He's the reason I met my husband. And, I could get into that if you and I ever have a conversation. But he is legitimately alienated from his children. My husband is legitimately alienated. Another really good friend of ours, Hector Morera, legitimately alienated from his daughter. So there are parental alienation cases that are 100% real. They happen. They're accurate. And then there's fake alienation where a judge will, throw that label at a parent simply for protecting their own children. So when people ask me, like, what do you think of alienation? I say, I know it exists. I know it's real. And I also know that the family court purposely misapplies it on purpose. So when people say that judges need more training in alienation and they need like better training, I'm like, no, they don't. They know exactly what they're doing because judges use the term alienation all the time. They're always using that term. They're not ignorant, okay? They know what they're doing and they do it on purpose because whatever situation puts the children with the more abusive parent is the more profitable and lucrative arrangement for the state to make money off of the pain of families, period. It's really that simple. It's a really simple matter, the way to figure out if it's fake or not, if it's a fake diagnosis or not, is to say, well, where did the kids wind up? Did they wind up with the abuser or not? If they wound up with a parent who's physically violent, or abusive, then and another parent was trying to protect that child, they're going to misapply parental alienation. It happens all the time. And if there's a child that legitimately wants nothing to do with the parent, and the parent is a completely fit and loving parent, then it's a real parental alienation situation. And this doesn't take a rocket scientist. So unfortunately, and this is expected, when you're an activist and you're passionate about a cause, you're going to get opposition. Okay, like don't be afraid to speak your truth and speak your voice. Don't be afraid of what other people are going to think. Okay, I have been shunned and slammed by women's groups for supporting fathers' rights. I have been slammed by dads for being a woman, so like men and women both hate me. Men and women hate my husband because that's what happens. That's a consequence of putting yourself out there and being a strong advocate. You're going to get opposition. I mean, I'm pretty sure Mother Teresa had people that hated her. Martin Luther King had people who hated him. I'm not saying that we are Mother Teresa and Martin Luther King, but we're on our way to being there. When we're 80, we're going to be known as like the Martin Luther Kings of family law reform. I know that for a fact. So when my husband's on his deathbed, and when I'm on my deathbed, like we'll be able to die knowing that we did something great. But everybody who does anything important is going to have opposition. So there's a handful of advocates in Connecticut who are completely against everything that I'm talking about right now. Like, they think that I'm just betraying women for believing that parental alienation is real. And that's fine. They're certainly entitled to that. And the thing is, when you're a parent who's been trying to protect your child from abuse, and you go to the police, and the police, don't listen to you, and you go to family court, and the family court says, well, you're just alienating your child from the other parent. And like, of course, like that's like getting a knife stabbed in your heart, because your child's being abused. You know that your child has bruises, and your child's telling you that they're being abused and assaulted by the parent. So of course you're going to call Department of Children and Families. You're going to call the police. You're going to do everything you can to make your child safe, especially when your child is like less than 5 years old. Okay, that's really scary. I'm not even going to get into the whole like sexual abuse, because that's a whole nother thing that's really horrifying. And it does happen. I know for a fact that it happens. I have seen it in court. I have attended court hearings for other parents where there was legitimate sexual abuse, 100% proof, and the judges wouldn't look at the evidence, and they told the parent who was trying to protect the child that that parent was alienating from the other parent. So of course, when you have been through that, and someone else is standing up saying parental alienation is real, it's natural to be like, to not like that person. It's natural to be really angry at that person. So that's why I don't really get that upset when mothers, and it's unfortunately parental alienation is usually misapplied to mothers who are trying to protect their children. It just happens to go that way. I didn't create this, but that's unfortunately what happens. So it's natural that like mothers and women would not like me and not appreciate what I'm saying when I say that parents are being alienated. Of course, it's natural to have a really strong triggered response to that. Okay, so I don't fault them personally, and like, I think they are misguided, because parental alienation is real. It does happen. But at the same time, I understand why they would not like me because of that. And so, but that doesn't mean I'm going to change my stance. I'm going to still support both sides of it. I know that it's real, and I know that it's falsely applied. So if you happen to be a parent who does not believe in parental alienation at all, like if you think that that's just a bunch of crap, it's completely fake, and that every time a child hates their other parent, it's warranted, and there's no such thing as like brainwashing. If you believe that, that's fine. Come to the public hearing and speak your truth. If that's true to you, then don't be afraid to say that, because you should never be afraid of the opposition. Like, you need to stand in your truth. You need to speak your truth. Okay, even if other people are going to disagree with you. So I'm going to go to court, or not court. I'm going to go to the public hearing, and I'm going to say, if asked, if somebody on the panel asks me what I think, I'm going to say, yeah, I know that parental alienation is real, and I also know that judges will falsely diagnose it. That's my truth. If your truth is that it doesn't exist, then speak your truth. Okay. Who am I to tell you what you're supposed to think or not supposed to think? I'm basing it on actual, like, real life experience, and I'm basing it on being in actual court hearings, and I'm just basing it off of what I know. This is the thing. So this is why I'm talking about this. Policymakers, legislators, lawyers, the bar industry, judges, these so-called fake experts who are appointed by judges, the hired hitman of family rights, they love seeing groups polarized. They love when people have opposing views, and they love the mom and dad fight. They love that women versus men dynamic. Okay. So they do this on purpose. I'm telling you, this is completely intentional. They want to purposely misapply labels and then ignore the actual problem when it really does happen. They do that on purpose so that men and women could fight each other, so that women's groups could hate people like me, so that women could hate people like my husband, so that men could hate people like me. They want men and women to be polarized so that we're not as strong. Because if we weren't polarized, we would be able to take these people down easily. We're going to take them down anyway. We're just going to do it much, much quicker if we are not polarized. I believe everybody should take the stance that yes, it's misapplied, and yes, it does exist. The problem is the judges, when they purposely ignore what's there and they misapply when it's not there. I know I sound like I'm repeating myself, but it's so important that people really get this instead of taking just one side. This is just my opinion. So when women's rights first came about in 1850, when they got together and congregated in Pennsylvania, was it not Saratoga? Oh God, the name escapes me. I'm on 3 hours of sleep. There was a place in Pennsylvania where Elizabeth Cady Stanton and her colleagues got together and started talking about women's rights. And that's when they realized, like, oh, well, in order for us to get women's rights, we have to get the right to vote. And so it was some place, I want to say Saratoga, but that's not the right place. Oh. Okay, I'll look it up and I'll put it in the comments where that location was. And if anyone knows, just stick it in the comments. They got together and they started talking about this. And guess who they had as supporters? They had Black men supporting them. Okay, they literally had like men of color coming to this location in Pennsylvania and supporting women's rights back in 1850s. Then in 1863, 1865, somewhere in that place, the 14th Amendment was created to include Black men in the Equal Protection Clause. And guess what happened? Women did not get their rights, but Black men did. And that polarized the movement. Like, the movement was completely splintered, and it took women another like 40 years to get the right to vote. Okay. And what happened was when the women sat there and watched only the Black man proceed forward and become equal to white men, they were so pissed off. They were like, oh my God, how did these men get these rights and we're still sitting here and we can't vote? Like, so they started hating the men that got the equal rights. They started hating Black men. They started saying bad things about Black men and like, oh, you know, these Black men are not educated. I know how to read and write. You know, these are white women like with money or whatever, married to like wealthy gentlemen, and they know how to read and write. They know how to play an instrument. You know, that's all really women were able to do. And they couldn't vote, and like Black men who've been working on a plantation were able to vote suddenly. Like, why are you allowed to vote just because you're a man? So that really made these women really upset, Black women and white women. And so they started hating the Black men instead of just being mad at policymakers and you know, legislators and being mad at the government. They were mad at the other people in the same movement as them. They just got mad at them. So when family law policymakers, people who basically purchase these state statutes, like these best interest statutes and the statutes that allow judges to force us into psychological evaluations and force us into jail when we can't pay for you know, these forced therapy bills and these forced GAL bills, when these people put these policies together and they profit off of these horrifying unconstitutional statutes, they want us to fight with each other. They want us to be splintered, and they want us to be completely polarized. And parental alienation is like the whipping boy concept that they're throwing around to make us all hate each other, you know? So, you know, unfortunately, I lost a friend last night to this very issue. Like, she, I think she said something like, I didn't read all the comments because I'm very sensitive to like negative energy, but I did catch some of what she said. She said that I am all about fathers' rights or something, and I don't care about women, like something like that. And so this is a person that I considered a friend of mine. And so that's an example of what these policymakers and these lobbyists and these people of the bar industry, and this is what they want to do. They want us to fight with each other so that we are not, so that we can't take them down. So again, I'm very forgiving. I understand her position. I understand why she would feel that way, because when you're, again, you have a child who's being harmed, and you're going to be pissed off. You're going to be emotional. Of course, you're going to be lashing out at people. It's a 100% natural response. So I'm not going to hold that against her, but we are no longer friends. And that's just the way it is. So again, you should still go to this hearing on Tuesday and speak your truth. Whatever your truth is, speak your truth. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be a good speaker. You don't have to be knowledgeable in the law. You don't even have to have a script. You don't have to know what to say. You can make up whatever you want to say, like that day, you know. You don't even have to speak for the whole 3 minutes. If you want to speak for 1 minute, that's fine. The point is you should show up anyway, even if you're not going to do it right. You know, no one's going to care if you clear your throat too many times, or you say or you don't, like, no matter what you say, it's not going to come out bad at all. You have to get over your own fears and your own ego, because our egos are just, they're not important. Our egos are not important. Ego serves like one purpose. You know, our ego prevents us from making complete fools out of ourselves at, like, you know, at dinner time, and, like, you know, our ego keeps us from looking, our ego keeps us looking normal when we, like, go out in public, you know. I mean, it serves some purpose, but it's really not as important as we give our attention to. We give way too much attention to our ego, and you need to look way beyond that, and look 50 years in the future. Think about your kids, and think about when your kids are like 40 years old, and what kind of laws do you want your kids to deal with if they decide that they are going to be getting a divorce? What if you have a son who's 40 years old and his wife doesn't want to be married to him anymore, and now your son is facing these horrible state statutes that allow a judge to come in and take the place of a fit parent and determine best interest? Do you want your son having those laws? Do you want your daughter having a situation where she can't get a divorce because, you know, maybe her husband knows somebody who knows a judge? You know, do you really want these kinds of laws for our children? So forget about what you can and cannot do. Forget about the fact that you don't know how to do public speaking. That's all just a story anyway. You're going to find that all that is just made up stuff that you tell yourself. Okay. 99% of what you tell yourself really isn't true, and you should just go anyway and speak anyway about whatever is true for you. And even if you completely disagree with everything I'm saying, if all you get out of this live stream is that you show up on Tuesday, then it would have been worth it. So the other thing I want to say, how much time have I taken up so far? I don't even know. Okay, 22 minutes, cool. So the other thing I want to say is that there is a workshop on Monday, but Monday, February 4th, just a few days away. It's at the Hartford Public Library, and we just got approval for this, so otherwise I would have given more notice. But the National Family Law Policy Center, I'm going to tag them in the comments right here. National Family Law Policy Center, and this is another gender-neutral nonprofit. I only support causes that are gender neutral. I don't support women's groups or men's groups. National Family Law Policy Center. And these people are awesome. Let me see. It's national. Here it is. I'm going to tag them right here. They are putting on a workshop on Monday. There's actually 2 workshops. One's at 12:30 p.m. This is free. There's no fee or anything like that. One's at 12:30, and the second workshop is at 3:30 on Monday. A lot of it is going to cover, like, making a speech to talk on Tuesday. So if you're in Connecticut, you're probably only like an hour, maybe 2 hours from Hartford at the most. It is worth your time to go to one of these workshops. There is a flyer as well, and I can't put the flyer in the comments, but I'll put the flyer. I'll find a way to upload the flyer into the comments. I think there's a way to do that. That gives the details. But I'm going to be there. So if any of you want to meet me in person and shake my hand, or I could shake your hand, I will be there assisting at this workshop. And the workshop is about basically like legislation and passing laws and passing bills. And I am so excited about this. Like, I am I have been dying to share this with all of you, and I just got the approval like 10 minutes ago that I could share it because we just got approval from the library. I am the community outreach coordinator for this organization. They are phenomenal. They're the most amazing people. So it's being run by Ron and Sherry Palmer. They also run fixedfamilycourts.com. And again, this is completely gender neutral. They support moms and dads equally. So if you're a dad who is suffering from the plague of family court, where you're put on supervised visits and you're alienated from your kids and you are paying gaggles of money in child support and you want to change these laws, then go to this workshop. If you are a mother who cannot protect your children from an abuser and you don't know what to do, go to the workshop. So whatever your situation is, wherever you're at, go to the workshop, definitely go to the hearing. And I am welcome to any criticism, comments, concerns, anything that you have is completely welcome. You know, there's no template on how to do this. So we're kind of doing it as we go. So there's going to be friction, you know, there's going to be tension, there's going to be opposition, there's going to be opposition within the group. I'm sure you've seen that. Like, but understand, like, the real problem is the courts. It's, you know, the courts create parental alienation. The courts create, you know, the criminalization of protecting your child. You know, they do this. They are the people that you should be mad at. Don't be mad at women. Don't be mad at men. So even if they have a different opinion than you have, you know. So, I mean, you know, there's a lot of mothers who believe that kids should be with the mother exclusively. And I am like 100% against that. Like, you know, but my mission to change these laws is more important than my negative feelings about the mothers who believe that they should be primary caretakers, you know. I don't like when men assume that I'm just a money hungry child support, you know, hoarding mom. And which is actually kind of funny because I have never received a dime in child support in my life. I pay child support. I pay weekly child support to my son's father. So I always find that kind of funny because I'm like, you know, do you know that I'm actually paying child support? So I don't like that either. You know, I think those men are jerks, you know, but at the same time, like, it's more important that I focus on the big picture instead of dealing with like the opposition within the group, because at the end of the day, these people just want the family courts to be fixed. So even if they hate me, like, we kind of have a common enemy. So I don't let it get to me. I really don't. I shake that off and I'm like, okay, that's how you feel. Let me move on. So anyway, does anyone have any questions about anything? I'm going to post a flyer for the workshops on Monday, which I'm so excited about. And I'm going to post again the flyer for the public hearing on Tuesday. So if you're in Connecticut, do what you can to go to this. If you have to take a day off work and, you know, lose $100, if you have to spend $50 in gas and parking, you're going to be at about $150, you know, $200. It's worth it. Your voice is so important, okay? For less than what you pay an hour to your attorney. You know, you're going to lose, you know, so a lot of people, because people are already telling me like, I can't go because I can't afford to take the day off. It's like, yes, you can afford it. Okay. It's like $100 or $200 or $300. Your voice needs to be heard. You are important and your children are important. So you should absolutely go to this. And if for whatever reason you can't go, you just simply can't, you know, you break your leg on the ice, then send in written testimony. You have 5 pages. You have a 5-page you know, limit. Submit written testimony. I am more a fan of focusing on like policy changes as opposed to like regurgitating your case. If you want whoever's reading your testimony to learn your case, then I encourage you to just put in your docket number into your testimony and say, hey, if you want more information, you could go here. Or even better, you can upload whatever document you think is necessary. Because like there are parents who are going to send like a 40-page document to the legislators. And the testimony is limited to 5 pages. So what you're better off doing is uploading your court documents. If you think the legislators need to read it, which sometimes there is, you know, if there's legitimate fraud in your case, you want your legislators to know that. So you could say in your testimony, like, there's fraud in my case. You know, on April 10th, 2015, the judge committed fraud. And then instead of like going through like everything that the judge did, because most people can't follow all that, it's just so overwhelming. You can upload your evidence into Google Drive and get the shareable link. Okay. Let me know if you have trouble with all that. You know, I could tell you how to do it. Get the shareable link and say, if you want to learn more about the fraud, here's the link to my documents. And then the legislator could just click on the link and then go to your stuff. And then you're still in that 5-page limit. Does that make sense? Again, I have read so much testimony in the past like 7 years. Well, sorry, since 2013, when I started doing all this, I started reading lots and lots and lots of public testimony. And I have found that some parents like take their whole court file and they just shove it into 5 pages and they just send it. And most people can't follow it because they don't know your case as well as you do. So I recommend like using bullet points, using lots of white space. Do you all know what white space is? White space is like lots of paragraphs. It's just so much easier to read than like a giant block of text. What else? Short sentences. You don't have to use fancy vocabulary. I'm a huge fan of using simple words. You could just be really simple about it. Pretend you're talking to like your 12-year-old child. It's okay to be simple. You don't have to be smart and like polished, and you don't have to have all this prestige to talk to legislators. You can just be you. Okay, you are enough the way you are. Yeah, so I hope that this is helpful. If anyone has any questions, please ask. I'm very passionate about this, and I really appreciate you all joining. I saw that I had like, I think like 20 of you tuned in, and that's just really awesome. Yeah, please ask questions, post it in the comments or private message me, either or, okay? Thank you all so much for watching, and I really hope to see you on Tuesday or on Monday at the workshop, either or, okay? Bye-bye.